evening and welcome. Tonight, Ogun State Police Command arrests 30 suspects in connection with a violent protest in Shagamu over scarcity of naira, where 3 banks were set ablaze by the protesters. It's mixed feelings as bank customers lament the difficulty in returning their old naira notes in the south, while some states in the north continue to trade in both old and new notes. 5 days to the presidential election, the African Democratic Congress endorses Peter Obi and his running mates as preferred candidates.
On business news tonight, National Orientation Agency calls for more awareness of CBN's Naira redesign policy as its feedback shows Nigerians have wrong perception of policy due to insufficient time.
Our sports news tonight, Nigeria's 100 meters hurdles world champion Tobi Amusan nominated for the 2023 Laureus World Sports Award in Breakthrough of the Year category, becoming the first Nigerian to receive such recognition.
And from Abuja, Commonwealth Observer Groups led by former South African President Thabo Mbeki seeks peaceful and credible polls, describes Nigeria's election as crucial to Africa's democratic growth.
And in international news from London, US President Joe Biden has made a surprise visit to Kyiv, his first to Ukraine since Russia invaded almost a year ago.
Normalcy seems to have been restored in Shagamu local government area of Ogun State after violent protests rocked the town earlier today over naira scarcity. Banks and business premises were attacked with some set ablaze. A State Commissioner of Police, Frank Mba, who led his men and soldiers to the scene, says 30 suspects have been arrested in connection with the mayhem.
This is what is left of Shagamu town in Ogun State after a violent protest rocked the town on Monday. According to residents, the riot broke out at about 5:30 a.m. when most residents were still indoors. The most affected area is the Oba Erinwole Road, where about 7 commercial banks were said to be attacked and their automated teller machines vandalized and looted. The hoodlums also attempted to gain access into the banking hall as well as the strong room of one of the commercial banks located in that axis of the town.
I was outside this morning and I witnessed the way everything played out. Like I was at Hospital Road when the NEPA office was got on, and it's really terrible.
This morning I woke up to panic calls, people calling from everywhere saying there is a massive riot going on in Shagamu. The police are trying to contain it, but it's getting more and more.
In the heat of the rage by the protesters, a combined team of the police and men of the Nigerian army arrived to prevent the protest from escalating any further.
What we saw here today represents arson, vandalism, pure robbery. We responded as strongly as we can. As I speak to you, we've arrested over 30 of the perpetrators of these crimes. We are still taking stock.
In the meantime, the state governor, Dapo Abiodun, has condemned the riot during a rally in another part of the state. He says those responsible will be brought to justice.
We cannot solve problem by creating another problem. I told you. But we will not resort to violence in Ogun State. We shall not. That is not who we are. There was EndSARS all over Nigeria. Ogun State youth, they were very disciplined. We did not burn any house. There was no looting here. And here now, I've told you, this matter will be resolved. It will be resolved in favor of all of you.
Though normalcy has since been restored to the affected parts, the Commissioner of Police, Frank Mba, explains that men and officers of the command have been deployed to strategic locations to ensure that law and order prevail.
Some Nigerians have asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to be clear on directives for commercial banks to accept old 500 and 1,000 naira notes. They lament how they are tossed between the CBN and commercial banks. Meanwhile, residents in Lagos are appealing to the president to allow both the old and new naira notes to coexist for some more time. Our correspondent Timothy Crown Adirigbe reports.
Weeks into the cash crunch across Nigeria over the naira swap policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, many Nigerians are yet to find their feet, wailing over the implication on their lives, businesses and more.
We have not been coping. We are just roaming up and down. We have not been coping. No need for that coping. No market. No market. No market.
We need a new note.
The anger expressed by these people seems to be one that cuts across class and status, telling tales of how they have fared since the naira swap policy took a new dimension early in February.
This cashless, no naira, is affecting business so much. So we are not doing business, is not moving as you normally do before. So for now, there's no people, if you can see, there's no everywhere is counting because there's no money. Even people to come out, there's more money to enter motor.
From one part of town to another in Lagos, the nation's commercial nerve center, there's been tales of lamentation.
I'm queued now over 2 hours. No any development.
That's not the general feeling. Some choose to bear the pain in the overall interest of the country.
We love what the government is doing by taking off the old notes because we don't want the election to be rigged. We don't want the election, I don't want the politician to bribe people over this election. I want the election to be free and fair.
At the Central Bank of Nigeria in Lagos, bank customers are seen taking the road naira notes for deposit. Camera movement is not allowed beyond this point.
I came here around 11. It wasn't difficult. I was asked of my paper, the online lesson here, and I gave it to them, and I was allowed to enter. And when I got there, it was so easy. Just drop and they calculate the money and you go.
Not all customers have the same sweet story of ease of transactions.
And then CBN this morning by 7 o'clock, I was there. They told me to return back to the same Zenith Bank that they have instructed them to collect the money. I then asked them, is it to collect the money with codes or without codes? They insisted I must go back, that there is instruction given to the household on what to do. I returned back this morning to Zenith Bank, Creek Road, Apapa. You can imagine, I'm just coming back to CBN.
On Friday, February the 17th, 2023, CBN released a statement discrediting information that it permits commercial banks to accept old notes from customers. There's no update to that statement yet, leaving customers stranded. In all, the yearnings of most Nigerians is that these policies should begin to wear a human face. Timothy Crown, Adiribigbe, Channels Television News.
And in the north, as the scarcity of the new naira notes continues to bite harder, residents of the nation's capital, Abuja, and in Kaduna have been lamenting the impact of the scarcity on businesses and lifestyle. Some residents of the two cities gathered at branches of the Central Bank of Nigeria to deposit their old currencies. In Kaduna, traders are still accepting the old naira notes.
Heavily armed mobile policemen and soldiers in their armored personnel carriers around the premises of the Kaduna State branch of the Central Bank of Nigeria clearly depict the mood of the moment. The bank has witnessed an influx of depositors who are struggling to deposit their old naira notes in line with the directive of the Apex Bank. Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State had told the residents in a state broadcast last week to defy the deadline for the return of the old three highest denominations of the naira. However, some residents do not want to leave anything to chance.
We came here and they will not address us since morning. As at yesterday, I'm here since 5 o'clock until around 5:30 before they came addressed us that they cannot be able to collect the money from us that very day. We should go and come back.
People, they are suffering about the policy because there is no cash in the hand of people.
It's a similar situation in the Federal Capital Territory, where the police is ensuring that the depositors maintain some orderliness in their attempt to deposit the old notes. The situation at commercial banks and automated teller machine points is the same, as residents of the nation's capital wait for long hours to make withdrawals.
My sister, I think, is terrible. It's terrible. Last week, I cannot get 20 naira to buy pure water. I parked my car at home to get little cash to buy black market so that I will take it to the filling station, because the filling station is very far from where I stay. I don't have that money.
To even get 500 naira to eat, if you go and meet POS people, there's no money in POS people's hand.
No, I don't talk. Oh, okay.
The impact of the scarcity is low patronage, and small businesses are not having the best of times.
I don't know how to even go back to East now. I don't have the cash. Transfer no they go.
Government should look into this matter. If they want us to be using the old money or the new money, let them help us to print money that it will reach to everybody's hand.
Nevertheless, some of the traders find a way around this situation.
Me, I know here down, but I collect because of the place where me I buy things, then they collect. That is why me I collect.
The Apex Bank is optimistic that the initial challenges associated with the policy will soon ease off.
We segue to politics now. With just 5 days to the presidential and National Assembly elections, the African Democratic Congress has endorsed the presidential candidates of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi and his running mate, Mr. Dati Baba Ahmed, as its preferred candidates for the election. The party's chairman of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Mani Ibra, announced the endorsement in Abuja while addressing party supporters. He says the party is mobilizing members to vote for the Labour Party on Saturday, February 25th.
The chairman, we told ourselves that we are going to be the grassroots political party with an inclusive culture and unique character that will champion the transformation of Nigeria and indeed the African continent. A party to birth a new Nigerian nation where opportunities abound for all as a result of justice, rich diversity, principles and values, and creative leadership with capacity to inspire the greatest innovative pursuits among our youths and our entire people. After due diligence and critical assessment of the 17 presidential candidates and what they have to offer Nigerians, and after consulting our grand patrons and other leaders of the party, we have decided that the Obi-Dati movement is a worthy cause to endorse. Today, we form this Star Alliance for one purpose only: to ensure a loud and a resounding victory.
Meanwhile, a group under the aegis of Yoruba Leaders of Thought has endorsed the APC's presidential flag bearer, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as its preferred candidate of choice for the southwest of the country. The endorsement, which culminated from a summit held in Lagos, had in attendance the governor of Lagos State and his deputy, former governors from the region serving and past leaders, traditional rulers, clerics, party faithful, and supporters of Bola Tinubu. At the endorsement and prayers, Senator Tinubu appealed to the eligible voters to come out and exercise their franchise on Saturday.
On the stage for a performance that will
di méjì kó di mẹ́ta Afẹ́nifẹ́re ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ fún Yorùbá.
Chief Rashid Taiwo Ekamo, Israel Majesty.
In part 2 after the break, Governor Nyesom Wike says the state's decision, that's Rivers State, on who to support in Saturday's presidential election is one that will give it a sense of belonging in the affairs of the nation. That's in a moment. Please join us again. John is watching the news at 10 and live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Ogun State Police Command arrests 30 suspects in connection with the violent protests in Shagamu over scarcity of the Naira, where 3 banks were set ablaze by the protesters. There's mixed feelings as bank customers lament the difficulty in returning their old Naira notes in the south, while some states in the north continue to trade in both old and new notes. 5 days to the elections, African Democratic Congress endorses Peter Obi and running mates as preferred candidates. And a 6.4 magnitude earthquake strikes southern Turkey weeks after a deadly quake devastated the region. We're staying with politics. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, has explained his reasons for shelving his presidential campaign in Rivers State. Speaking at a meeting with Rivers State PDP stakeholders in Abuja, Mr. Abubakar notes that he shelved his rally in the state to prevent a bloodbath.
Please put your hands together for them.
It is a gathering of prominent members of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, with the party's presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar. But Governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, is conspicuously absent. The party had cancelled its presidential campaign in the state, and this is the reason for this meeting. Notwithstanding the impasse with the governor, members here believe that Mr. Abubakar will win majority votes in the state.
Our focus is for us to mop up the entire Rivers State to vote for our president in waiting and our vice president in waiting. And so we don't have time for distraction.
We want to assure you, Mr. President in waiting, that the people of Rivers State support you and will overwhelmingly cast their vote for you because you have been a benefactor to so many people in Rivers State.
In his remarks, the PDP presidential candidate gives reasons for shelving his planned rally in Port Harcourt, the River State capital.
Clearly, events on the ground in Rivers State and this gathering here at the instance of our Rivers PDP family confirms the historic relationship between me and the Rivers people. It became expedient that we think and act innovatively to protect the lives of our people from the mindless violence and bloodshed instigated by the very persons who have the primary responsibility for their security and well-being.
All the candidates of the party.
In another meeting, Mr. Atiku Abubakar and his running mate meet all PDP National Assembly candidates for the 2023 elections. The PDP presidential running mate urges the candidates to ensure victory for the party so that the PDP can control the Senate and House of Representatives and the forthcoming administration.
We do understand that we are all on the ballot on the same day, and therefore your successes would obviously ensure the success of the party and the success of the presidential candidate. We cannot afford not to control the two houses.
The PDP is the party to beat on the 25th of February. And so I think that that election will be won on the first ballot by Atiku and Okowa.
The PDP officially ended its presidential campaign on Friday. However, the party's presidential candidate is urging all the candidates to continue with the campaigns in their constituencies and wards until the campaign deadline set by the electoral umpire.
Staying in Rivers State, the governor, Nyesom Wike, says the state is prepared to take a decision in Saturday's election that will give it a sense of belonging in the affairs of the nation. He says the option before the state ahead of the presidential election is to make a decision that will be beneficial to all. Governor Wike was speaking at the flag-off of the dualization of Emoha Kalabari Road, queried the rationale behind the hosting of stakeholders meeting by some PDP members from Rivers State in Abuja.
Done with the state-level campaigns in the 23 local government areas, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State is back on the road in continuation of his urban renewal and rural development agenda. He's in Emoha to flag off the dualization of this 12.24-kilometer road from Emoha to Alabama, Tema Junction in the Kalabari region.
Your Excellency, the road is going to be a dual carriageway, 4.5 meter on both sides, giving us a total width of 9.75 meters, because we're going to have the New Jersey-style median on the middle of the road, and across the entirety of the 15.24-kilometer stretch of the road, we're going to be having street lights at 30 meters intervals, and that gives us a total of 508 street lights.
4 local government areas of Emoha, Asaritoro, Akukutoro, and Degema are to benefit from the dualization of this road that was constructed 28 years ago. Governor Wike, who describes the event as historic, restates his commitment to serve the state till his last day in office.
History is being made, and we give God the glory for giving us what it takes to be part of this history. I've said severally to our people, my interest is the interest of Rivers State. Whatever that will make Rivers State to move forward, whatever will make Rivers State to look better, that is what my interest is all about.
On the forthcoming elections, Governor Wike queries the rationale behind the meeting by some Rivers PDP members with his party's presidential candidate in Abuja, among other issues.
How dare you say you address Rivers people in Abuja? No right-thinking Rivers man will take that insult. We are prepared on Saturday. We are prepared. We will tell them there are those who own this state. There are those who live there, who are Asa River, but they are not indigenous. They live there. It's a period. In the circumstances we have, we make a decision that's confident, that will make our people to be part of this country.
Besides improving the socioeconomic status of the 4 benefiting local government areas, the road dualization is expected to reduce the rate of crime in this corridor.
More on politics. Now here's Maukwe Ogun Yusuf in our Abuja studio to give us the deets. Hi, Maukwe.
Hello, Amarachi. It's good to see you. A lot of eyes will certainly be trained on Nigeria and her fast-approaching elections this weekend. One of them, the chairman of the Commonwealth Election Observer Mission, His Excellency Mr. Thabo Mbeki, who is leading a team of observers to Nigeria ahead of Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. The Commonwealth team describes the forthcoming elections as critical because of the country's strategic position in the Commonwealth. The leader of the delegation urges all election stakeholders to ensure that the polls are free, fair, and peaceful.
The former South African president, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, is leading a delegation of the Commonwealth Election Observer Group to a meeting with the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
Finally, I would like to recognize Dr. Alex Vines.
The presidential and National Assembly elections in Nigeria will hold on the 25th of February. The observer team underscores the importance of the forthcoming elections to the Commonwealth.
Nigeria is a very important country. Its future impacts on itself, but it impacts on the continent as a whole. So it's always very, very important that as the Commonwealth we should come. We come very hopeful and very confident that we will have successful elections, peaceful elections, inclusive elections, and at the end, hopefully, there should be no complaint.
The INEC chairman gives the assurances of the commission to conduct credible polls.
We are committed to a free and fair process. I want to assure you that INEC is not a political party. We don't have a candidate in the election. The choice of who becomes president or whatever in the forthcoming general election is entirely in the hands of citizens. We are committed to free, fair, credible, inclusive, and verifiable elections.
Earlier in the day, the Commonwealth Observer team briefed journalists, urging citizens to support electoral processes that would ensure peaceful and transparent elections.
It is clear that the outcomes of the elections will be significant not only for Nigeria, but also for the entire continent. And therefore, we urge all stakeholders in Nigeria to uphold their commitment to ensure a peaceful and inclusive election in which people of Nigeria are able to freely exercise their right to vote, with the fundamental freedoms of expression, of association, of assembly fully respected.
The former South African president is leading 15 eminent persons from around the Commonwealth, including politicians, diplomats, and experts in law, human rights, gender equality, and election administration.
Still ahead on the news at 10, National Orientation Agency calls for more awareness of CBN's Naira redesign policy, as its feedback shows that many Nigerians have a wrong perception of the policy owing to insufficient time. Well, that's on business news. You join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has granted an injunction restraining the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from using, engaging, or further dealing with the chairman of the Lagos Parks and Garages, Musliu Akinsanya, popularly known as MC Oluomo, or any of his representatives in the distribution of election materials or as ad hoc staff for the forthcoming polls in the state. Justice Chukwujeku Aneke granted the injunction following an application filed by the Labour Party and its governorship candidate in the state, Badebo Rhodes Vival. Channels TV's judiciary correspondent Shola Shoele learned that INEC was absent at the proceedings, even though lawyer to the Labour Party told the court that the commission was served with the court papers. Justice Aneke has fixed February the 22nd for the respondents to file their counter affidavits to the application. And away from the courts now, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, says those planning to disrupt security during the 2023 general elections should have a rethink, as security agencies are ready to give them a bloody nose. He stated this while speaking to journalists after a closed-door joint security meeting with other security chiefs at the defense headquarters here in Abuja.
Looking at the security for the elections, and as you know, the police is the lead agency for elections security. And we have compared notes and assessed the entire situation, and we are good to go. The assessment is that we are set on all fronts. We equally got representation from the INEC chairman, who of course you have interacted with, who has also told Nigerians and the world that they are ready for this election. So by and large, we are good to go, and I'd like to use this opportunity to assure Nigerians that on the security front, we are good to go.
And that's all from our Abuja studios. It's back now to you, Amarachi.
Thank you, Maokwe. Barely 2 days after the attack on 33 police stations in Onitsha, gunmen and arsonists struck yet again in the early hours of today, burning down Awada police station near Obosi, Anambra State. According to reports, the gunmen killed 3 policemen, including the DPO of the station, while 3 members of the gang were gunned down by the police. 2 AK-47 rifles were also recovered from the gunmen, as well as the vehicles used for the operation. Time now for business news. Here's Anne Wawadu.
Thank you, Amarachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. We begin with a survey conducted by the National Orientation Agency showing that Nigerians have wrong perception of the new Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Speaking at a news conference in Abuja, the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Garba Abari, explains that feedback from its officers shows that Nigerians were of the opinion that time allocated for the change of new Naira notes is still insufficient. To this end, the National Orientation Agency is now advocating more awareness to gain the support of more Nigerians.
The people were of the opinion that the sensitization should have commenced much earlier before the new Naira redesign, which is also true. We went back with a report that stakeholders commended the NOA and the CBN for the resensitization campaign and they promised to step down the messages to others so as to meet up with the deadline. 3, we responded by way of a feedback that it was observed there were a large number of people who misconceived or have wrong perception of the new Naira design policy of the same year. And we needed additional information. There is the need to redouble efforts towards creating more awareness on the policy. Some people are of the opinion that time allocated for the change of the new Naira note is insufficient and many people can't meet the deadline.
The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the sustained rise in the country's inflation has worsened the poverty level of many Nigerians and caused some weakening in the purchasing power. In a statement signed by its Director General, Chinyere Almona, the Chamber explains that this is coming especially at a time when multidimensional poverty had jumped with an unprecedented 133 million Nigerians living below the poverty line. The LCCI recommends the monetary and fiscal policies should be equally deployed to tame inflation, while the CBN should check the extent of the monetary financing of the federal government through ways and means. Let's head to Nigeria's stock market now. It began the election week on a positive note as the color is green today. The share price of Airtel Africa and 13 other gainers lifted the total value of equities listed today by more than 220 billion naira. Eni John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, a remarkable recovery from Friday's dip. That's what we saw at the close of trade at the NGX. We see all-share index sitting very comfortably above 0.5% gain, 0.78% at 54,228.35. And the market gained more than 200 billion naira. That's what the market cap tells us at 29.539 trillion naira. And of course, with this, we can hear the bull bellowing. So those responsible for this top on that list, oil and gas, and that's because of Connor, well, very attractive to investors today. So we saw oil and gas at 0.96%. Banking and most liquid counter also did not do too bad, 0.18%. But we can attribute today's positive sentiment to Airtel Africa. Airtel Africa gained 60 naira today and moved 2.9 billion naira around in the market today. Talk about being a giant at the close of trade. Well, we start off on a good note and hope that the week will stay positive. That's the stock market report. Eni John Mekwa is back to you.
Thanks for watching Business News tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Anne. A London court today heard from the prosecution's key witness in the organ harvesting case involving the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu. The market trader from Ebonyi State, who was allegedly trafficked to the British capital, told the jury at the Old Bailey that he was shocked when a doctor revealed he was to have a kidney transplant and was coached into lying to health professionals. Our London correspondent, Juliana Olayinka, has more.
Tomorrow will mark 3 weeks since the trial began at the Old Bailey involving the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, his wife Beatrice, their 25-year-old daughter Sonia, and Dr. Obinna Obeta, all of them accused of human trafficking and organ harvesting offences. It is expected to be a very lengthy process, but certainly today the case did pick up a gear as we heard from the prosecution's key witness, this alleged victim, a 22-year-old man who cannot be named for legal reasons. The alleged victim did appear at court via a video link with an interpreter. KC Hugh Davis for the prosecution really set the scene by asking about his upbringing, and there were no surprises. He described them as being incredibly difficult. He alleges that he is the eldest of 9 children, that his father was a carpenter, earning a very little amount of money, so little in fact he had to stop school at the age of 15, where he then travelled on to Lagos State to work for a family member selling mobile phone accessories out of a wheelbarrow. He says he was then contacted mysteriously by Obinna Obeta, the 4th defendant, who we discovered has actually received a kidney transplant of his own, and we believe that the donor of that kidney is in fact the individual that matched him with this alleged victim. The 20th of February does mark 1 year since this individual came to London. We know that after extensive consultations at a hospital, he was seen not to match Sonia Ekweremadu, and he says on returning to the family home, he was treated like a slave. He subsequently handed himself into police at Staines police station, and then of course we know that the Ekweremadus were arrested. During the testimony, as to be expected, Sonia and Beatrice Ekweremadu were visibly shaken at times, the senator angry at times, and Obinna Obeta, whose name was used continuously by the victim, was shaking his head throughout. Well, just before their arrest in the summer, the Ekweremadu were a very powerful, very influential couple, and it does appear that the prosecution is setting up the case to say that they took advantage of this very young man, very poor man, who would have done anything to provide for his family. He says he had no idea for the reason why he was travelling to London. According to him, he was told by Obinna Obeta that he would be starting a better life by working for him in his household. Well, we know that is not to be the case. The trial continues at the Old Bailey, and we will give you more when we have it. Juliana Olayinka for Channels Television News in London.
Thanks, Juliana. Meanwhile, a 6.4 magnitude earthquake has struck Turkey today, further damaging buildings in Antakya, weeks after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck the region on February 6, killing more than 46,000 people. It's unclear how much damage has been caused by the current quake or if there are any casualties. People have been urged to stay away from coastlines as a precaution against the risk of rising sea levels. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Joe Biden has made a surprise visit to Kyiv, his first to Ukraine since Russia invaded almost a year ago.
Morning, Mr. President.
He was greeted by President Zelensky and his wife at the presidential palace. Before paying his respects to those who died in the ongoing war. The highly secretive visit, which took place as air raid sirens could be heard ringing out across the capital, comes a critical moment in the 12-month conflict, with Russia preparing for an expected spring offensive and Ukraine hoping to soon retake territory.
It was anxious for me to say this, but I thought it was important that the President of the United States be here the day the attack began.
It comes as the anniversary of Russia's invasion approaches, and Mr. Biden said the United States would stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
Joe Biden. Putin thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. As you know, Mr. President, I said to you in the beginning, he's counting on us not sticking together. He was counting on the inability to keep NATO united. He was counting on us not to be able to bring in others on the side of Ukraine. He thought he could outlast us. I don't think he's thinking that right now. The evidence is right here in this room. We stand here together.
Meanwhile, EU foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels to discuss the bloc's latest sanctions package against Russia to be announced over the course of the week. The EU's top diplomat also said the European Union needs to ensure that Ukraine has enough ammunition to continue its fight against the Russian invasion.
The Russian artillery shots about 50,000 shots a day. And Ukraine needs to be at the same level of capacity. They have cannons, but they lack ammunition. It's the most urgent issue. If we fail on that, really the result of the war is in danger.
Authorities in the Brazilian state of Sao Paulo say at least 36 people have been killed in heavy flooding and landslides, forcing some cities to cancel annual carnival celebrations. Video showed neighborhoods underwater, flooded motorways and debris left after houses were swept away. Rescue teams have been struggling to reach survivors and unblock roads. More than 23 inches of rain fell in some areas on Sunday, twice the expected amount for the entire month. Thousands of protesters have blocked main roads and highways in various Israeli cities to protest against the government's judiciary's overhaul only hours before voting on the first bill was due to take place. Several videos circulated on social media platforms in the early hours show protesters blocking different junctions and highways. Police said 8 people were arrested for disorderly conduct and traffic rerouted after demonstrators blocked some roads. The government says the reforms are designed to end overreach into politics by an unrepresentative Supreme Court. North Korea has fired 2 more ballistic missiles off its east coast as the powerful sister of leader Kim Jong-un warned the United States to halt military drills. The North's state-run television, KRT, confirmed it fired 2 projectiles from a multiple rocket launcher. Kim's sister, Kim Yo-jong, warned against increased presence of U.S. strategic assets on the Korean peninsula after the United States held joint air drills with its Asian allies over the weekend. A son of Zimbabwe's former president, Robert Mugabe, has been arrested over allegations he damaged property at a party in Harare. Robert Mugabe Jr., who is thought to be 31, is accused of destroying cars and other property over the weekend. He was arrested following a complaint from his friend. The police say the damaged property was valued at $12,000. And one of the famous balloon dog sculptures by the renowned artist Jeff Koons, valued at $42,000 has been accidentally smashed by a visitor. An art collector was at the gallery when it happened and posted this video on his Instagram account. And here a photo of what it used to look like. The visitor responsible was reportedly very sorry for the incident. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. World 100 meters hurdles champion Tobi Amusan has been nominated for this year's Laureus World Sports Awards, becoming the first Nigerian to receive such recognition. Amusan has been shortlisted in the World Breakthrough of the Year category alongside 5 other contestants. The other nominees in the category are tennis stars Carlos Alcaraz and Elena Rybakina, semi-finalists at Qatar 2022 FIFA World Cup, the Atlas Lions of Morocco, American figure skater Nathan Chen, and American professional golfer Scott Scheffler. Gombe United this evening beat Plateau United 3-2 to record only their 2nd win of the season in match day 9 of the Nigeria Professional Football League. Anayo Ogbonna got the opener for Gombe United in the 12th minute. Albert Hilary leveled the score line for the visitors 6 minutes later. Rowan Olariwaju increased the tally for the hosts just before half-time. Moses Adiku again leveled the score for Plateau United in the 47th minute. Nasarawa United beat Remo Stars 2-0 in the other game of the day. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
Thanks a lot, Ayatunde. And the main news again. The Ogun State Police Command says it's arrested 30 suspects in connection with the violent protests which broke out early in the day in Shagamu over scarcity of naira notes, where 3 banks were set ablaze by the protesters. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Bubani. Good night and be safe.